A warm welcome to all our viewers to our series Natural Medicine. In the last few weeks, I've had some feedback on a product, blueberries. And here, I'd like to continue the discussion with a chronic health expert, Jutta Suffner, with whom I've already spoken about these blueberries. Welcome, dear Jutta Suffner.
Hello, Alexander. Best regards to Switzerland.
Thank you very much, dear Jutta. Jutta, I received some feedback from a Karl Heinz. He's a carpenter, and he sent us a video about the blueberries. Now, I myself am an avid blueberry eater, but the frozen ones with a little cream on top, a delicious snack in the evening. Now, I do this less for health, but I know it is healthy. But what this Karl Heinz took is something else, something that has a lot of antioxidants in it. Can I just play this video for you?
Sure.
Please, dear viewers, take a look at this quickly. Hello, my name is Karl Heinz Schlamp. I'm 54 years old, and I've been an independent master craftsman in Eichstätt in beautiful Upper Bavaria for many years. Now, since I'm very challenged professionally, I've been looking for a natural product for a long time, which on the one hand can increase my own energy and also protects my body as an antioxidant. With Blue Antox, I've found a real power food here. The resilience of the blueberry is unique. Blue Antox, for me, this is the key to increased energy, increased well-being, and above all, the most important thing, containing silent inflammation in the body and eliminating it. So, you saw that Karl Heinz is totally happy. It gives him energy. And now maybe you can explain to me why a blueberry can give off so much energy.
First of all, the most important thing is that the blueberry or some of these varieties are among the most adaptogenic, so are among the most adaptable fruits in the world. Why do I mention this? This is actually the key, what the gentleman said in the interview, because this blueberry must always protect itself against insects and toxins in nature. So it has to build up defences. And through a special process, it is triggered, so to speak, so that heat shock proteins are formed. I don't have to explain it in detail now. In any case, this helps us when we ingest this extract in our body to mobilise these defences. And even if it sounds a bit strange, inside our body, the fruit of this extract is looking for the construction site that needs to be worked on the most at the moment.
May I ask briefly, every fruit is outside in nature and has to face the most adverse circumstances, including the blueberry. But the customer says that it gives him energy, the blueberry. Or is it more that his free radical inflammatory processes are reduced through the antioxidant power? What did he feel there? Energy gain or what?
It's both. On the one hand, the ability of this blueberry is passed on to him. But that's a huge information field, and you also have to know that a blueberry bush can never be destroyed. This is a little atypical. Even if you burn this bush, it will still regrow again with even more force. And all of this power, this information, is of course an increased energy. And everyone who takes it feels that, some more, others less. And what I've also noticed in myself, the more sensitive I become in everyday life, also through other food that I eat, the better I can support this. Let's say, well, I don't really like the word power food, but this mode of action for me. And you take in the energy and the information, and of course antioxidants too, of course. That's natural rust protection. Every day we are exposed to environmental pollution, stress, that is the greatest processor of oxidation, to these things. And of course we need antioxidants. So rust protection from outside to curb these free radicals. That's very, very important.
Yeah, I agree. So many doctors say that again and again here. These inflammatory centres, so the inflammatory processes in our body, are not becoming less, but dramatically much higher. On the one hand, because of the omega-6 heavy diet, but also all the electric smog and interference fields and so on. You owned a new barrel earlier that we've never even talked about, which is the information in the blueberries. And that it can withstand such adverse circumstances. It can burn and it'll come back. It's the first time I've heard that. This is also something very, very interesting. And I think many of our viewers, we can certainly talk to them about information that is contained in such things. So is the information from the blueberry something that also strengthens our body?
That applies to everything, because every vibration, including a blueberry, a word, yes, everything, has a corresponding energetic vibration that carries information. And we take in this information. And even if it is certainly still underestimated, I believe these things have the future, because our body absorbs this information and can process it accordingly in order to initiate recovery processes. And that shouldn't be underestimated. Many men may also know, what's his name, this medical medium, Anthony William. He also writes that these millions of years of information, which in this case the blueberry has now taken in, these defensive functions to protect itself and to develop further, they are passed on to us. And how does he say so beautifully? The wild blueberry has an information content as big as the entire internet.
Wow, incredible. But now a second question. If I look at the colour now, and from my studies, I also know colours have vibrations. And the purple colour has the highest vibration.
And there we get to the large group of these flavonoids. And among them, there are 5 different groups, and one of them is these anthocyanins. Anthocyanins. Everyone calls them a little different, and there it is about anthos means blue, and there we are at this blue-purple dye, which, so to speak, also adds the colour component to the real wild blueberry. And there are, just like you say, there is, so to speak, this power, among other things, inside. And there was a biochemist who was a Nobel Prize winner, Albert Ghioghi. What's his name again? Albert Szent-Györgyi, exactly. And he too, people can Google him, wrote a lot on this aspect. And he called these bioflavonoids vitamin P, and has already described in preclinical studies that the effect of this vitamin P, so these positive ingredients, is anti-allergic, antiviral, sure, for this time now, important, anti-inflammatory, and also cancer. I don't like the word, but it's also an issue that they can support and curb all this uncontrolled cell growth. And yesterday I took that out of a couple of studies, and I read it. Everyone can read it.
Very, very exciting, this topic. I'm always so fascinated and so happy about it to be allowed to do such programs, because as the blueberry reflects to us again, it's just, nature is perfect. What treasures it has given us. And we're all well advised to get back into nature. Also to really buy the food where people don't really have their fingers in it. So pure natural products or natural food supplements, where there's simply still the power of this precious gift that was built over millions of years.
Speaking of which, maybe one more aspect. Often people say, well, why should I take such an extract? Then I'd rather eat the blueberry straight. That was also my argument a few years ago, until I then had someone explain to me and I understood. To be able to pass on this massive energy content, this potential of antioxidant properties, you have to expose this wild blueberry to forces and processes, so to speak, in this special extraction process, so that it is stimulated to produce these so-called heat shock proteins, because they in turn control other genes that are consistent with our immune system. So you basically have to create this process first. You pack the whole thing in a capsule, powder, whatever, in that through this extraction process, it is then possible that all these ingredients, active ingredients, even though we mustn't say the word active ingredient, can be used positively for us. So there is a sense behind the fact that it is extracted and you don't just eat 5 kilos raw. You couldn't eat that much anyway.
So much, yeah. I try to eat a nice full bowl every evening. Now, I have one more story to read to you. Let me grab it quickly. I received a letter from someone who wrote to me. From the point of view of a dog. I didn't even know that apparently people give blueberries to their animals too. Now, my name is Fleur and I am 13 years old. And my owner swears by it. Since I've been taking the blueberries, I'm doing very well physically and mentally. Long walks with swimming breaks weren't possible in the past, but now they are. My appetite and digestion couldn't be better, so what more could I want? Blue Antox is simply part of my life. Breakfast without my blueberry capsule, hidden in a piece of meatballs, just isn't possible. A big thank you to everyone. So what a nice story. It's actually exactly the same process. Like with us humans, the animals are also exposed to stress fields, also have high levels of omega-6 these days, right? Through this nutritional chain, inflammatory processes, pollution. So we would all be well advised to give our animals antioxidants, correct?
Well, I notice when I see some dog or pet owners in general, some animals are also better cared for than humans. First of all, the animal has to be fine, and after that, the human. I mean, maybe you can get that more balanced. But it's really wonderful to see that. Blue Antox is also available for animals, and there is a green-lipped muscle powder in it. And this combination is really excellent for providing this positive supportive measure. We're not allowed to use the word indication and such, and that's really nice, the kind of feedback that's coming in about everything that walks through the countryside on 4 legs, so mostly cats and dogs, mostly dog owners, also some horse owners. But the majority of dogs, everything that somehow belongs to the animal world, reacts very positively to it, just the same as with humans.
Yeah, I understand. Now, we recently had a vet here, a holistic vet, and he also showed us various aspects of nutrition, how animals and horses simply also need individual nutrition today. But he also explained how bad the diet is nowadays for animals. And that's not meant in a mean way. We are, of course, very often exposed to advertising and see wonderful animal food here. It looks very tasty, as if you want to eat it yourself. But when you see how many chemicals are in there and how much omega-6, that means that inflammation-promoting products are in there, then we'd all not buy it. I'm quite sure of that.
Yes, and above all, the animals are just like us. They walk around in nature. They are exposed to toxins, to fungi. There is a dog in a bush somewhere. You don't know what is being sprayed there, what it has sniffed now, what it has perhaps subconsciously absorbed. And that's why it's so important also with animals. They have their detoxification system as we do. I also did an ultrasound course for a while and went to veterinary clinics very often, and the problems and symptoms are often identical in humans and animals. And they have a heart, liver, stomach, with the corresponding functions as us. And that too should be detoxified again and again. And above all, this balance should be restored. Because often it is also like that. The stress that we humans put on ourselves is often perceived by an animal. I think we should also be aware of that. And that's not a rigid being, but much more sensitive and intuitive than we are. And that is often also a burden. But it can't say to you now, hello Alexander, how go a little slower on the bike, now go a little slower. And of course these are things that also burden such an animal. And if you can support that, I think you should do it in any way possible. And with the blue antox, that actually came out of a joke, out of chance, and that's now the whole thing, how the whole thing developed. That we said, wait a minute, that works. Or helps the four-legged friends as well.
He brought up another interesting line, which is if an animal were to feed itself, then it would feed mostly on omega-3s. And if it's fed by humans, we feed it predominantly with omega-6. And you can see that when the dog or the animal or the cat is feeling unwell, they go outside into the garden and eat grass, and then they'll eat again. That has completely different bitter substance stuff in it. Nature's just perfect, if we just let it go. I also think the dog would decide for itself whether it needs blueberries or not, right?
You can. I always say just do a test. We had the same thing recently. Water is my topic too. And we had the food bowls and filled them with different water in different bowls. Some with good water, with filtered water, so with different water. The animals go exactly where it is best. So you can't fool them. And you can see that if they don't like something, then it makes sense.
I understand exactly. Now, I'd like to show another video on the same topic that has also reached me. A lady also reported on the success she had with her own animal. Please listen to this. Dear viewers.
Hello, I'm Stephanie, and this is my dog Maya. Last year we bought Blue Antox animal capsules. We tried them because Maya had an inflammation of the pancreas and the value was at 671 and up to 200 is normal. And now we've had her retested, did a blood test, and the value has now gone down to 246. In other words, it's almost normal again. And she took 2 capsules in the morning. I received great advice on the phone. And I can only recommend anyone who has to do with an inflammation like this, just give it a try.
So, another example that animals like to have antioxidants and also immediately respond with significant health improvements. So I think that's important. Now I'll show Jutta, because we can sensitise a lot of people who have animals to also adjust to antioxidants, because the animal simply has inflammatory processes just like us.
Exactly, and it's not just the antioxidant. That's part of it, but it's also much more important. For example, this vascular stabilising effect. Vessels that are a bit porous due to inflammatory processes and tissue water can escape. They are stabilised again, and also with the collagen, which is the basis of our body, so for a good basic structure, to restore all this stabilisation. So these are all things that are often not mentioned, but they are sometimes even more important, because you can only build on a good basic framework. And that applies to animals as well as to humans. Because if this collagen framework is not really firm, how will you build the first floor on it then? This is often underestimated and rarely mentioned, but that's exactly another huge positive aspect of these extracts.
I mean, she did that with her animal that is a bit older, but would you basically recommend that it can also be used in young animals?
Yes, they always say 1 capsule for every 10 kilograms, that's enough. And it's about, regardless of whether they are children, animals or people, that we stay healthy in the long run. That's what it's about. That's more my approach, that you don't let it get that far in the first place, that your horse has bolted already like it happened to me 20 years ago. But that I, just like I go out into the fresh air every day, sleep well, that I take something every day to curb this silent inflammation, to be armed against anything. And that applies to an animal as well as to humans. So that's completely the same. We need prevention. That should actually be the new health cure culture.
Is it the same for us humans? 1 capsule for every 10 kilos?
No, much, much less. With humans it is, I'll say, if you take it preventatively, 2 a day are enough. There are different ones. In one, there's also nettle in it. Then we have another one with cordyceps. Many people take that who are very tense. Or also now I call it sea times because that goes to the lung and kidney meridian to just get the stability there. And definitely not more than 6 capsules a day. That doesn't make any sense. And as a preventative measure, 2 capsules are usually sufficient.
Can you explain in the last minute, Timi? We keep talking about blueberries, but not all blueberries are the same. That's not what I eat every night. We're really talking about something of higher quality here. Can you tell us again what this is about?
There are over 120 different types. There are cultivated and wild blueberries, but we need a wild blueberry that has a correspondingly high content of these anthocyanidins. Otherwise, you can't maintain this model of action, and that was important to us. We followed this. All of those preclinical studies that you find at PubMed all have a corresponding anthocyanidin content, and then you should, at least that's how we do it, follow this in order to also, I would say, be authentic to the outside world. You also get some where, I don't know, only a tenth is in it. But that doesn't make any sense because there is not this oomph behind, and then you would have to have a whole can straight away. So that doesn't make any sense at all, and that's why you should adhere to these specifications and, if possible, also manufacture here in Germany and not somewhere in China where you don't know exactly what's inside.
My final question, dear Jutta. If you want to read more information about these blueberries now, or study material, or God knows what, just want to collect a little more information, is there a platform that you would like to actively point out to people?
So it's best to write to info@blueantox.com, blue like the colour, antox for antioxidant, or www.blueantox.com, and there are my colleagues. Or to info@jutasuffner.com, so it doesn't matter whether it's Blue Antox, then it gets to Ms. Nahir or Ms. Palwright, and the 3 of us are very, very well connected, and it also gets to the right one. So we forward it to each other. Definitely nothing is lost.
Okay, and then you can pass on the information that the viewer would like to have on all these blueberries, on these antioxidant powers, on all the topics that we've now spoken about. Great, thank you.
Yeah, exactly. You're welcome.
Dear Jutta, I don't even know what else to call you. Whenever it comes to blueberries, you are somehow the blueberry queen or something like that. Thank you very much for the interview and, of course, for your time.
Thank you, Alexander. Regards to Switzerland.
Yes, thank you. I'll pass it on. To you, dear viewers. Thank you very much for your attention, also for this programme, where it was simply about the perfection of nature, where my heart is in it, and I hope I was able to convey something to you today and also inspire you to deal more with nature. That would be my wish, that would be my goal, and I wish you all the best and the best of health. See you next time.